March 15th, 2006. It was the happiest day of my life. My husband, Terry, and I had been trying to have a baby since we'd gotten married, and we were just so excited to find out we were having Parker. It definitely came with its struggles, but it was so worth it.
What was it like after Parker was born, raising her with your husband, Terry?
Everything was amazing. Parker looked like Terry, and she was just perfect. I just wish she'd had more time with him.
Miss Ryder, did something happen to your husband, Terry?
In 2008, when Parker was only 2, I'd gone to drop Parker off at daycare. I was only gone about an hour or so, and I called Terry on the way home, but he wouldn't pick up. I was instantly worried, so I raced home, and when I got there, I found him on the couch. I tried to wake him up, but he never did. He had an aneurysm while I was gone.
So incredibly sorry for your loss. How did you and Parker handle losing your husband, her father?
We moved in with my parents. They were so helpful and so supportive. But 6 months later, they were killed by a drunk driver. Parker was all I had left.
How did you cope?
It was the hardest thing I ever did. Parker and I moved in with my half-sister, and I was working every single night to make ends meet, but I just couldn't make enough money.
Ms. Ryder, were you ever arrested during this period?
Yes. I sold pills to get by. I regret it so much. It was stupid and it was dangerous, and it landed me in jail in 2012.
What happened to Parker while you were incarcerated?
I gave custody of Parker to my half-sister just in case anything were to happen. I always wanted what was best for Parker. It was especially hard that I found out about Parker's brittle bone disease while I was in prison. It was just another reason I had to get back to her.
Were you ever able to get back to Parker before your term was up?
Yes, I went through counseling sessions and anger management, and I was released on parole in June of 2018.
Okay, Ms. Ryder, I want to talk about the events that brought us to court today. When did you decide to take Parker camping?
My social worker had recommended camping to us in one of our sessions, and Parker and I discussed it, but in general, though, I had to get Parker away from my half-sister.
Were you concerned about Parker's safety and the care of your half-sister?
Yes, my half-sister was horrible. Her house is a complete danger zone, and it's disgusting. Parker wasn't safe. I couldn't leave her in such a dangerous situation. That's why I took her to Calkins Campground, July 14th, 2018.
Ms. Ryder, when you got to the Calkins Campground, at what point did you decide to take Parker hiking?
Parker and I started at about 3 p.m. on La Crone Loop, since that's the one Armani Rodriguez had recommended to us.
We've heard a lot today about the La Crone Loop. I want to talk about it more. How did that hike begin?
It started out great. Parker and I were having a great time, but after a little while, we both got kind of tired, and Parker got slightly irritated, so we decided to turn around and head back down the mountain.
Ms. Ryder, I want to be clear. Did you ever actually make it to the top of the La Crone Loop trail?
No, never.
Ms. Ryder, are you aware that Parker's body was found at the bottom of the top of the La Crone Loop trail?
Yes.
Would you recognize a photograph of that location?
Yes, the police showed me a photograph.
All right, this time I'm approaching opposing counsel, as previously remarked, number 7.
So noted.
Courtesy copy, Your Honor. Permission to approach the bench.
That's correct.
Permission to approach the witness with the same.
Great.
Ms. Ryder, would you please identify that photograph for us?
This is a photo of where they found Parker's body.
And does it appear the same as it did when the police showed it to you?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time the defense offers exhibit number 7 into evidence.
Any objection?
Per the stipulations, no, Your Honor.
All right, so admitted.
Ms. Ryder, you just told us this is the location that Parker's body was found. Have you ever actually been to the location depicted in this photograph?
No, never.
Do you have any idea how Parker's body got here?
No, I I have no idea how Parker's body got here. We never went to this part of the trail.
Okay, Miss Ryder, I'll take that back. You just told us that you turned around and went back to the campsite. Did you ever have a physical altercation with Parker on the way back to the campsite?
No, never.
Okay, did you maybe have an argument?
Yes, Parker and I got into a verbal argument on the way back down the mountain. I took her walking stick from her, but it wasn't exactly a two-way fight. She said some things and I was hurt, but I practiced my anger management techniques and I was fine.
Okay, Miss Ryder. Do you know when you returned to the campsite with Parker?
I'm not sure of the exact time, but it was right before sunset.
What did you and Parker do upon returning there?
Parker decided she was going to go take some pictures of the sunset, but I was really tired, so I stayed back.
What happened next?
Well, I decided to go to bed at about 7 p.m. Later, I woke up at about 2 or 3 a.m., and that's when I noticed that Parker was still missing.
So when you noticed that Parker was still missing, Miss Ryder, what did you do?
I immediately pulled out my cell phone to try to track her location, but I couldn't. I didn't have any signal. I jumped into my car and I raced around the campsite trying to find her. I tried to contact my half-sister since she did have legal custody of Parker to see if maybe she had come to pick Parker up, but I couldn't get a hold of her.
So since you couldn't get a hold of your half-sister who had custody of Parker, what did you do next?
I didn't know what to do. I looked for Parker all night, and I thought that if my half-sister called me back, then I would call the police if she said Parker wasn't with her.
What happened that next morning?
The police found me. I'd been looking all night. When they found me, they almost immediately took me into custody. That's when they told me that Parker was dead. It was heart-wrenching. It was my worst nightmare. It was like losing Terry all over again.
Miss Ryder, do you have any idea why the prosecution is blaming you for what happened to Parker?
No. I have no idea how they managed to accuse me of all this. Parker was everything to me. And now they're trying to say I would kill her. I love Parker. I miss her so much.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Councilman Lynch?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Ms. Ryder. I know that this is going to be hard, but I have to ask you some questions.
Of course.
Now, you went to Cafe du Foray before you and Parker actually entered the campgrounds.
Yes, we did. We stopped and got some really wonderful beignets.
And this was on July 14th at around 10:30 or so.
Yeah.
And you and Parker walked in, and you ended up sitting at the counter.
Yes.
And while at the counter, you asked for the Wi-Fi password.
Yes, I got the Wi-Fi password, and Parker and I were making sure that we got all of our supplies. We'd gone to a bait shop earlier that day to make sure that we picked everything up that we needed.
And while you were on the Wi-Fi, you started an application to change Parker's life insurance.
Yes, my husband and my parents all died really suddenly, and while I was in prison, I saw Parker's self-esteem just crash underneath Corbin's care. I was so worried that something was going to happen to her, and every minute of every single day, all I think about is Parker. She's what got me through prison. I don't know what I'd do without her in my life. I was so worried.
Now, Ms. Ryder, you got out of prison about 6 weeks before you went on the camping trip.
Yes, Parker and I had discussed all these adventures we wanted to go on, so I wanted to go on one as soon as possible.
But you didn't think to change the life insurance policy right after you got out of prison?
No, I was more worried about reconnecting with my daughter. I hadn't seen her in years. I love her more than anything, and I wanted to show that to her. I didn't want to worry about the logistics of a health insurance policy.
Now, you and Parker also went on a hiking trail.
Yes, we went on the Crone Loop since that's the one Armani Rodriguez suggested.
Right, and you didn't, and in front of the LaCrone Loop, there's a warning sign.
No, there's a warning sign about a third of the way up. When Parker and I saw that sign, that's when we decided to turn around because it said that things start to get more dangerous.
Now, Miss Ryder, you were in court today when Kelly Deuce testified that she saw you above the LaCrone Loop overlook.
I never went there. I went up the right side of the loop. It had less elevation changes, and I knew it would be easier for Parker and I.
But yes or no, you heard Miss Deuce testify that she saw you there.
I heard what she said, but I did no such thing. I never would have taken Parker over there.
Now, multiple witnesses also heard you and Parker arguing.
Yes, at one point, Parker and I got into an argument over the walking stick, but I practiced my anger management techniques and we worked it out. I gave her some space when we got back to the campground so she could go take pictures of the sunset.
But you still took Parker's hiking stick away from her.
Yes, it was getting in her way, and I knew she didn't need it. It wasn't anything super physical.
But you were aware that Parker suffered from brittle bones disease.
Yes, she had type 1.
And you're also aware that Parker had asthma.
Yes, she did. I made sure all throughout the hike I watched her every step of the way. Any time that she said she was tired or she wanted to stop, we would sit and rest.
But you didn't think that maybe her disease would make the hike harder for her?
She kept going. I was constantly worried about her, but any time that she said anything or I noticed anything, we would stop and rest.
But in fact, you told Parker to keep going.
Yes, after we would stop and take, I think we took about 5 or 6, she would be ready to go and we just keep going.
Even after Parker complained, you told her to keep going.
Yes, that's why we stopped so many times.
And this argument, Miss Kelly Deuce testified, was right over the overlook.
We never went to the overlook. Our argument was on the way back to the campsite and it was over a walking stick and it was minorly heated.
Well, at 3 a.m. the next day, you went back to Cafe du Foray.
No.
Is it your testimony that you didn't go back to Cafe du Foray?
Yes, I never went back to the Cafe du Foray. I looked for my daughter all night long.
Well, let's talk about back to the insurance policy. You have one on Parker Page, correct?
Yes, I do. It was a responsible thing for me to do.
And you would recognize a copy of this life insurance policy if I showed it to you.
Yes.
Let the record reflect I'm approaching opposing counsel with Exhibit 25.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Now, Ms. Ryder, what have I just handed you?
This is a copy of the life insurance policy that I filed for Parker.
And is it a fair and accurate copy?
Yes.
Has it been changed or altered in any way?
I don't believe so.
Your Honor, we'd like to move to enter Exhibit 25 into evidence.
Any objections?
Per stipulation, Your Honor, no objection.
So admitted.
Now, Ms. Ryder, you would agree with me that at the top of the policy it says application start time 10:42, July 14th.
Yes.
And you would also agree with me that application submission time is at 3:12 a.m. on July 15th.
Yes.
Now, you would also agree with me that there's no signal or Wi-Fi at the actual campgrounds.
No, there's no signal or Wi-Fi, but while I was looking for Parker, I jumped into my car and I raced around. That's why I got cell signal to contact my half-sister, because I thought maybe, by some grace of God, Parker was with her. That's when it reconnected, and I guess it submitted my application. I started it that morning.
But cell signal and Wi-Fi are two different things. You would agree.
Yes, but it's on data.
But cell signal, which is what you were talking about earlier, and Wi-Fi or data are two different things.
Yes.
And you said that you got a cell signal when you were riding around in your truck.
Yes.
But that's not Wi-Fi, is it?
You don't need to submit something on Wi-Fi. You can use cellular data, and I was working on the life insurance policy on my phone.
Right, the first time you were working at it was at 10:42 on July 14th.
Yes.
And then at 3:12, you were able to connect to Wi-Fi and submit the application.
I didn't connect to Wi-Fi. I used the data off my phone. That's how I was able to contact my sister.
So you used the data off your phone to
Yes.
submit this application.
Yes, I was worried about my daughter.
So while you were worried about your daughter, you decided to increase her life insurance policy.
I'd already done this, and there's a 12-hour review period for any kind of life insurance, so I had to wait. And when I finally got cell signal again, it successfully submitted.
So you waited until your daughter was missing and you didn't know where she was to submit the application.
No, I didn't wait. There's no cell signal, like you said, on the campground, so when I finally reconnected, it automatically sent.
Ms. Ryder, cell signal, which allows you to have calls, is different from Wi-Fi or data, which allows you to connect to the internet.
Objection, Your Honor,
Correct.
asked and answered. I believe we've discussed this quite thoroughly.
Sustained. Move on, counsel.
Now, this is your signature on this application.
Yes, it is.
And it says at the bottom, July 15th, 2018.
Yes.
And Ms. Ryder, this was after you found out that Parker was missing.
This was while I was looking for Parker, but this is an electronic signature, not an actual signature.
Right, but this is after you found out that Parker was missing.
Yes, it's after the 12-hour review period, so when it's submitted, this is the signature from 3:12 a.m.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions. I ask that I be allowed to publish this to the jury.
Permission granted. Any redirect?
Briefly, Your Honor, you have to.
Yeah.
Ms. Ryder, is there any amount of money in the world that would cause you to harm your daughter?
No,
Nothing
none.
further, Your Honor. I simply ask that the witness be allowed to step down, barring any recalls.
Any recalls?
No, Your Honor.
The witness is allowed to step down. Thank you for your testimony.
May I return this?
Your Honor, it's time for the defense grounds.
How are we doing on time? Okay, so 10-minute recess, is that good for everybody?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Megan?
makes you say that all of a sudden?
Because like, the stuff that's on the judge bench is unique. And then, I'm just now remembering the last round, the team moved the tissue box and it's like, it was taped to the thing, which like you can see the tape hanging off of this.
Weird.
And it's still sitting there. Which like he moved it and then he didn't do anything with it. It was during closing. And I was like, because then I'm watching him move it during closing. And I was like, are you gonna like cry in the middle of your closing? Like, you're prepping for tears? But no, he didn't do that. And then the guy who played the dad in the last round was just like monotone the entire time. So yeah, my daughter died. I'm like, that's not sad at all. Like now I definitely think he murdered her. I'm telling you, man, last round it was like a Twilight Zone round. I was like, I've never seen anything like this. Like,
And you were presiding, you said?
yeah,
Right? So you just asked them if they had witnesses to call and stuff, pretty much? That was
yeah,
it?
yeah.
So you didn't-
Granted permission to approach things and entered in evidence, and nobody ever entered in evidence, and I'd be like, any objection? They'd be like, no. So admitted.
It's all in
I
there.
kept like flipping through it, and I was like, they didn't give me, like they gave me the rules. I'm like, you gave me the rules. Like, you know these exist, right? Like, these are things. No, okay.
Oh my god.
Like at the bottom of the comment on like the 2 and 3, I was like, where are the objections? Seriously, where are the objections? Like, yeah, I mean, I get it. I used to dread objection files when I was in my trial.
I do.
But it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
You practice for them.